So imagine a corporate executive, right? Like someone whose entire daily function is to just prevent multi-million-dollar legal
Right,
liabilities.
like a high-level risk manager.
Exactly. Someone who manages highly secure, regulated financial assets. And, they also act as this real-time psychological circuit breaker for volatile human behavior in these really high-stress environments.
Sounds intense
Yeah.
and expensive.
Right. But now imagine taking that exact executive, paying them $15 an hour, and classifying them under a job title like Budtender or, customer service staff.
Yeah, which is just wild to even think about.
It is. And today we are opening up a stack of documents that pretty much proves the entire modern hiring system, the one you and I and everyone listening navigates every single day, is just a massive structural illusion.
It really is an illusion.
Mm.
And it's an illusion maintained almost entirely by software.
Yeah.
We have basically offloaded our entire understanding of human capability to applicant tracking systems, things like Workday, Greenhouse, Taleo.
Oh, man, the dreaded Workday portal.
Exactly. And in doing so, we've created this landscape where high bandwidth, incredibly capable individuals are just completely miscategorized.
So just because their raw daily reality doesn't fit neatly into some drop-down menu.
The system just doesn't know what to do with them.
And that is exactly what this deep dive is about today. We are looking at a stack of sources that, honestly, it kind of blew my mind. It is a wildly eclectic mix of documents.
Yeah, eclectic is definitely the word for it.
We have standard corporate resumes, raw employment data scraped from LinkedIn, and a literal 23andMe genetic report.
Which is not something you usually see in a career analysis.
No, not at all. And on top of that, we have this highly analytical, almost sci-fi-esque set of system logs detailing one person's psychological, genetic, and operational framework.
Sovereign pilot logs?
Right, the sovereign pilot system logs. And they all orbit around one specific individual. Her name is Anne Marie Hood. She also goes by M.
Born May 30th, 1987.
Yep. And she's currently operating out of the Huntsville, Alabama grid. Now, on paper, if you just glance at her work history, you see, retail, food service, dispensary jobs.
Just standard everyday jobs.
Exactly. But the mission of our deep dive today is to use these documents to tear down that paper facade. We are going to decode what the logs call the beige world of corporate resumes.
I love that term, the beige world. It's the perfect way to describe it.
It really is.
Because it represents this complete flattening of human experience. The documents attempt to basically decompile M's existence, from her ancestral DNA to her daily cognitive habits to 15 years of employment.
Because when you actually look at the mechanics of what she does, like on a daily basis, she is not a standard retail worker.
Not even close. She is an elite compliance, asset protection, and verification engine.
And the reason this is so crucial for anyone listening to understand is that right now, algorithms are acting as blind gatekeepers.
Yes. Millions of people are having their raw, high bitrate capabilities reduced to generic, low-scoring text files.
Just instantly discarded by some corporate coordinator who, frankly, doesn't understand the ground-level physics of the jobs they're hiring for.
Exactly. So let's break down that beige world illusion. Let's really look at the mechanics of it.
Okay, let's do it. Over the last 15 years, M has held public-facing titles like Budtender, assistant store manager, customer service office staff, shift lead, crew member.
Right.
If I take a resume with those titles and upload it into an applicant tracking system right now, what physically happens inside that software?
Well, the system immediately strips away all context. When you upload a PDF, a parser, like Greenhouse or Workday, it extracts the text and attempts to map it to predefined ontological buckets.
So it's just looking for exact string matches?
Pretty much. Exact string matches and keyword density. These systems use aggressive knockout questions.
Right, the ones that immediately disqualify you.
Exactly. So if an employer needs a compliance auditor, the system scans your job titles. It sees Budtender. It does not see compliance.
Because it doesn't know what a Budtender actually does all day.
Exactly. The internal logic of the software associates Budtender with customer service, or entry-level retail, or maybe cash handling.
And then what?
It categorizes the candidate in the lowest scoring tranche, or it just triggers an auto-rejection outright. It is a catastrophic failure of vocabulary.
And the human gatekeepers aren't much better, right? I mean, even if the resume somehow makes it past the parser, a human recruiter looks at assistant store manager at a dispensary and their own internal biases take over.
Oh, absolutely. They picture someone just standing behind a counter selling weed.
Right. They completely miss the high-velocity operations running under the surface. They're trapped in this normie script of what they think retail is.
Which is why the source documents introduce a methodology called the Rosetta Stone Refactor.
Okay, I really want to dig into this. What is the Rosetta Stone Refactor?
Well, this isn't about padding a resume or, exaggerating your skills. It is an act of sheer translation.
Translate.
Yes. It is taking the raw, physical reality of the job and translating it into the precise systems operations vocabulary that the ATS algorithm is hard-coded to accept. You literally have to bypass the knockout parameters.
Okay, give me a concrete example of how this refactor actually works from the source text. Like, how does M do this?
Sure. So in the Beige World, M held the title of Assistant Store Manager at Green Dragon, which is a medical cannabis dispensary.
Right.
To bypass the ATS, the logs refactor this title to Operations and Regulatory Compliance Manager.
Wow. Okay, that sounds way more intense.
It does, but it's accurate. Her time as a lead Budtender is translated to Data Integrity Specialist and Inventory Auditor.
So you basically strip away the industry-specific formatting, all those words that trigger corporate bias, and replace them with this universal administrative syntax.
Exactly. You are wrapping sovereign operational truths in the exact language the corporate checkpoint demands.
Okay, let me try an analogy here. Tell me if this tracks. If you look at standard resume formatting, it's kind of like looking at a really low-res JPEG of a person.
Right, it's blocky and generic.
Yeah. The ATS just sees this pixelated image that says, like, worked at a grocery store. It traps the applicant in this flat existence. But when you apply the Rosetta Stone Refactor, it's like zooming in and enhancing the resolution. Suddenly you see the complex underlying code of a regulatory officer.
Well, it's actually even more restrictive than a low-res image, honestly. And ATS isn't even looking at the picture. It is entirely blind to the image itself.
Wait, really? What is it looking at then?
It is only looking at the file's metadata. If the hidden metadata tag doesn't explicitly say compliancemanager.jpg, the system deletes the file before the image even renders on a human screen.
Wow.
Regardless of how intricate or beautiful the actual picture is. That is what M is fighting against.
That makes perfect sense. So if we are going to prove that the metadata is wrong, if we want to prove that this customer service label is actually obscuring a high-gain regulatory engine, we need to look at the specific environments where she operates.
We have to look at the bare metal truth of her daily tasks.
Right. And the source material starts by throwing us into an incredibly intense environment, which is the strict world of Florida's medical cannabis industry.
Yeah, we are looking specifically at her time at Green Dragon in St. Petersburg, Florida. This is from February 2024 to April 2026.
And she was at Curaleaf before that, right?
Yes, a prior stint at Curaleaf from April 2021 to July 2022. Now, the Beige World assumption is that she was just a retail cashier selling a controlled substance.
Just a Budtender.
Right. But the operational reality is that she functioned as the primary safeguard for facility licensure under the Florida Medical Marijuana Treatment Center framework.
Let's get into the mechanics of that framework because the state of Florida doesn't mess around with this stuff. The MMTC rules are unforgiving. This isn't just a relaxed recreational weed shop where anyone can walk in.
Not at all. It is a highly monitored, strictly medical program. Operating within it requires 100% data fidelity.
100%.
And we need to understand what is at stake here. If a standard retail cashier accidentally gives a customer the wrong shirt, it's a minor inventory loss. Who cares, right?
Right, they write it off.
But in the MMTC framework, if M makes a single error in dispensing, if she provides a product that does not perfectly align with the patient's legal parameters, it is a violation of state law.
Which means huge trouble.
It triggers severe financial penalties, audits from the Department of Health, and even the potential revocation of the multi-million-dollar license required to operate the facility.
So how does she prevent that? Like, what is she actually doing at the register to ensure that doesn't happen? The sources talk about route of administration allotment auditing. Can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. So every medical patient in Florida has a state-mandated profile in the Medical Marijuana Use Registry.
The MMUR, right?
Yes, the MMUR. A physician dictates exactly how many milligrams of active THC a patient can receive, broken down by specific chemical profiles and specific routes of administration.
Meaning like inhalation versus oral or topical.
Exactly. And these allotments are measured down to the decimal point, and they operate on rolling 35-day or 70-day limits.
Oh, wow. Rolling limits. So the math is constantly changing. She isn't just ringing up a barcode. She has to query a live state government database for every single transaction.
Exactly. M enforces absolute data alignment between the internal point-of-sale system and the state's MMUR database. She has to cross-reference real-time consumer telemetry.
So if a patient walks in and wants a specific concentrate,
Right. If they want a concentrate containing, say, 843 milligrams of THC, she has to mentally calculate if that specific product will fit into their remaining inhalation allotment of, say, 900 milligrams.
without exceeding the limit by even a fraction.
Without exceeding it at all. And she is managing these calculations while executing zero-shrink physical audits.
Zero shrink meaning no missing inventory.
Right, meaning the physical inventory sitting in a highly secured vault must mirror the digital stock records perfectly. Any variance is a critical compliance failure.
The source logs refer to this specific cognitive capability as zero jitter compliance muscle memory. And I am fascinated by this phrase. Can you explain the mechanics of zero jitter?
Sure. So jitter, in systems engineering, refers to a deviation from true periodicity of a presumed periodic signal.
Okay, so like a loss of synchronization.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
In a human operator, jitter is hesitation, guessing, or making assumptions under pressure. M possesses a highly calibrated balance of speed and zero-defect precision.
So she doesn't jitter.
Right. Think about the physical reality of her workspace. She is standing at a register.
Mm-hmm.
A patient is in front of her. That patient might be in severe chronic pain.
Or they might be highly frustrated by state limits they don't understand. I mean, nobody likes being told they can't buy something.
Exactly. Or they might just be angry. The room is chaotic. M has to manage that human emotional volatility, handle a cash till, and simultaneously interface with a clunky state database that has literally zero tolerance for error.
The logs explicitly state she does not guess or vibe check data. There is no close enough.
Then, she forces physical reality and digital records to synchronize. She acts as an impermeable membrane between the state's regulatory body and the corporate entity.
And what's wild is that while she is doing all of this high-stakes math and legal compliance, she's also operating as what her coworkers called the work mom.
Yes, and a wellness advisor.
Right. She is taking these highly complex terpene profiles, the actual biochemical makeup of the products, and translating them into human-readable recommendations for patients with specific ailments, all while maintaining high-pay-adjacent privacy standards.
Let's look at how the Rosetta Stone Refactor handles this exact dynamic, because it's a great example.
Yeah, how would that look on a resume?
In the Beige World, her resume bullet point might read, helped patients select products and verified state allotments.
Which, to a hiring algorithm, that is a low-tier customer service action.
Totally entry level. But the refactored text translates the mechanism. It says, audited real-time consumer data against state-mandated regulatory verification databases to guarantee 100% compliance with tracking parameters, mitigating organizational liability.
It's the exact same physical action, but the refactor explains the actual systemic value of the action.
Exactly.
And this raises a massive point about how we view labor, honestly. If a single data mismatch can result in severe legal liability for the entire organization, isn't this role mechanically closer to operating a highly audited pharmacy than a standard retail shop?
Yes, absolutely.
The cognitive dissonance here is staggering. Corporate structures rely on these frontline workers to act as the ultimate regulatory firewall, protecting their multi-million-dollar licenses. Yet the corporate metrics frameworks classify them as unskilled labor and drop their resumes into the lowest scoring tranches.
It is one of the most profound structural hypocrisies of the modern economy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we place the absolute highest burden of localized environmental stabilization and legal compliance on the individuals carrying the lowest prestige job titles.
They absorb all the ground-level friction.
They do. M is simultaneously acting as a biochemical translator for patients in pain and a zero-defect regulatory firewall for the state government.
So she's acting as a regulatory firewall for state laws. But dealing with a government database is one thing. Dealing with raw, untraceable cash on a massive scale is another. Does this hyper-compliance hold up when she's handling millions of dollars in a grocery chain?
Oh, it absolutely does.
Because the science material takes us from the dispensary straight into the logistical chaos of public supermarkets.
It holds up perfectly, but the mechanism of application changes. From June 2018 to April 2024, M worked as customer service office staff at Publix.
Okay.
In the Beige World, the ATS sees someone standing behind a customer service desk, processing refunds or ringing up groceries.
Right.
The bare metal truth is that she was managing the store-level accounting life cycle.
Break down the actual mechanics of a store-level accounting life cycle. What is she physically doing inside that cash office?
She is opening and closing the cash vault operations for a massive retail footprint. This requires conducting daily safe audits.
So she's balancing everything.
Yes, she is balancing multi-register allocations against daily financial reports. She isn't just counting bills. She is directing high-value, highly regulated financial services with 100% accuracy.
What kinds of services?
This includes processing payroll and personal check cashing, money orders, lottery sales compliance, and managing Western Union transactions,
Oh, wow, Western Union.
which, by the way, are subject to entirely separate federal tracking regulations to prevent wire fraud and money laundering.
The Sovereign Pilot logs define her function here as the financial air gap. I want to dig into that concept. Because in computer security, an air gap means a secure network is physically isolated from unsecured networks. How does M function as a biological air gap?
Well, she serves as the structural buffer between the highly entropic, chaotic environment of the retail floor and the strict, unforgiving mathematics of the corporate ledger.
Okay, I like that.
Think about it. The retail floor is full of variables. You have cashiers making change errors, registers breaking down, customers disputing prices, fraudulent checks being presented.
Just constant chaos.
Right, but the corporate ledger expects absolute perfection. Every penny must be accounted for. M sits exactly between those two realities.
So she absorbs the chaos of the physical floor, audits the variables, and outputs clean, perfectly balanced data to the corporate ledger.
Exactly. Nothing corrupt gets past her.
And this capability didn't just manifest at Publix. The deep scan of her career telemetry in these documents goes back much further, mapping her ability to optimize high-throughput production environments.
Yeah, if we look at her time as a shift lead at Auntie Anne's Pretzels or a crew member at Hardee's and McDonald's going all the way back to 2006.
Again, the Beige World just sees fast food.
Right. But let's look at the operational physics. Opening kitchens at 4:30 in the morning requires initiating scratch production sequences. And more importantly, she was managing HACCP temperature monitoring and waste mitigation.
Let's explain HACCP for a second, because people hear that and just think, oh, she's checking a thermometer. HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point.
Yes.
It's not just a restaurant thing. It was literally designed by NASA in the 1960s to prevent foodborne illnesses in astronauts. It is a strict systemic protocol.
Highly strict.
If M is off by a few degrees or a few minutes on a temp log, she triggers a critical control point failure. She is essentially running a rigorous biosecurity audit before the sun even comes up, ensuring the entire supply chain remains uncompromised.
Exactly. And then, completely shifting domains, the sources detail an IT internship with the Lee County School District between January 2013 and March 2014.
Right.
Here, she managed the end-to-end listing and tracking of surplus government IT hardware on govdeals.com.
Which is a huge pivot. I mean, she's going from baking pretzels and monitoring biosecurity to auditing government IT assets. How does she do that?
The mechanism is what matters here. In the GovDeals role, she had to test complex hardware, log highly detailed specifications, generate weekly profit and revenue spreadsheets, and coordinate directly with winning bidders to ensure secure payment processing and asset release.
The sheer variety is dizzying. We have medical cannabis compliance, multi-register safe audits, NASA-level food safety protocols, and government asset liquidation.
All in one person.
Right. And on a standard resume, this looks disjointed. An algorithm sees a lack of a clear career path.
Which is the failure of the algorithm. The logs synthesize this employment history through the lens of two concepts: cross-domain adaptability and kinetic logistics.
Kinetic logistics, I like that.
The common thread is not the industry she is. The common thread is the underlying mechanism of her biological hardware. The sources note that she adapts to new administrative software and new physical environments with what they call near-zero activation energy.
Near-zero activation energy, meaning she doesn't need, like, a 6-month onboarding ramp to understand how a new system functions.
Precisely. When she drops into a new environment, she doesn't focus on the superficial details. She instantly maps the system architecture.
Wow.
She identifies the compliance parameters, the physical logistics flow, and the critical failure points. Once she maps the system, she steps in and acts as the localized administrator, whether she is auditing a state registry, a cash vault, or a pallet of surplus servers.
But acting as a systems administrator in a retail environment isn't just about managing data. It's about managing humans, and humans are incredibly volatile.
Yes, they are.
This brings us to a hidden talent highlighted in the documents, something they call her somatic environmental radar.
This is a critical operational strength that standard corporate metrics entirely fail to quantify. Somatic refers to the body. Her somatic environmental radar is an intuitive, physical ability to instantly read the tension in a room.
Break down how that de-escalation actually works mechanically. Because everyone says they have, good customer service skills on their resume, but the logs describe this as something much deeper. They call her a biological circuit breaker.
Consider the physics of a conflict at a retail service desk. A customer approaches, they are highly agitated about a pricing discrepancy or a denied return. They are projecting high-friction, volatile energy.
Right, they're yelling, they're upset.
In a standard interaction, the retail worker absorbs that energy, they become defensive, their heart rate spikes, and the situation spirals. It requires management intervention, it disrupts store operations, and it damages the brand.
Which happens all the time.
But M, acting as a biological circuit breaker, operates differently. She absorbs the kinetic energy of the conflict, but does not allow it to complete the circuit. She grounds it.
She neutralizes the localized environment.
Yes. She modulates her vocal tone, her posture, her pacing. She de-escalates the human variable so she can return to the data variables.
That's incredible.
And what is vital to note is that she didn't just rely on raw intuition for this. She actively trained to optimize this specific structural adaptation.
Oh, the LinkedIn Learning Certification burst from May 2022. I noticed this in the source data. While an applicant tracking system just hides these certs in some drop-down menu, the timeline shows a highly intentional, concentrated focus on leadership psychology.
It really does.
In a single month, she completed courses on leading with emotional intelligence, building resilience, how to be an adaptable employee during change and uncertainty, managing up, and leading change.
That is not casual browsing. That is an operator actively upgrading her own internal software to handle higher processing loads.
Wow, yeah.
She recognized the cognitive strain of her environment and installed new psychological frameworks to maintain her efficiency. It perfectly encapsulates the planner defender or structural damper role described in the logs.
Threshold damper.
Yes, she forces digital records to mirror physical reality perfectly while simultaneously stabilizing the unpredictable humans around her so they do not disrupt that reality.
Wait, hold on. We're talking about biological circuit breakers, software upgrades, and structural dampers. We are using heavy mechanical and software engineering metaphors to describe human behavior here.
We are.
But the source material doesn't just stop at metaphors. It literally drills down into her actual biological hardware, her DNA. I have to admit, when I first read the 23andMe data and the sovereign pilot logs outlining her feral firmware, I was genuinely baffled.
It's definitely a leap.
We just jumped from a Publix cache vault to genomic sequencing and 16-year marriage protocols. Walk me through this carefully.
Okay, it is a radical departure from standard career analysis, I'll give you that. But it is deeply logical within the framework of systems engineering. If you want to understand how a machine operates under stress, you have to understand the raw materials it is built from.
Okay, I'm tracking.
The genomic telemetry provided in the 23andMe report defines M's physical chassis as a high-bandwidth bridge.
The sources detail that she carries 59.2% European DNA, so British, Irish, French, German, fused with 37.6% indigenous American DNA, and it traces this specifically to Jalisco, Mexico, identifying groups like the Caxcans, Cocas, and Huicos.
Right.
There are also echoes of Coptic Egyptian and West African ancestry.
The documents view this genetic fusion not just as heritage, but as a blueprint for adaptability. And the 23andMe report provides incredibly specific, granular details about how her body functions.
It gets almost uncomfortably intimate. Like, it notes she is genetically predisposed to wake up around 8:18 a.m.
Very specific.
Her muscle composition mirrors elite power athletes. She prefers salty over sweet foods and vanilla over chocolate ice cream. She has thicker hair, no widow's peak, detached earlobes. She is allergic to cherries. She's predisposed to a fear of heights and motion sickness.
All of it is in there.
Why are we analyzing her cherry allergy in relation to her ability to run a compliance audit? That feels insane.
Well, because the author of the Sovereign Pilot logs, her husband, James, is establishing a baseline. He is documenting the exact physical specifications of the hardware.
Okay.
You cannot optimize the system if you don't know its constraints and predispositions. He takes this biological baseline and maps it onto her psychological and relational architecture. In the complex system of their life, M does not function as an isolated unit.
She functions as the gyroscope and the shield maiden in what the logs describe as a guild of two.
Exactly.
This guild of two is their marriage. It is described as a 16-year continuous uptime relationship. They met at McDonald's in Huntsville back in the 2006 to 2008 window.
Yes. James asked her out 3 times over a year and a half before finally getting a first date in 2010.
But the way he describes the internal mechanics of their dynamic sounds more like load balancing a server network than a traditional romance.
Because traditional relationship tropes, what the logs dismissively call neurotypical barycentric conformity, are inadequate to describe how they process information and share cognitive loads.
Neurotypical barycentric conformity, wow.
Right. Barycentric conformity implies orbiting a standard, socially acceptable center mass. They reject that entirely. Instead, they operate in a state they call Jinba Itai.
Let's explain Jinba Itai. It's a Japanese term, right?
Yes. It translates to the seamless synchronization between a horse and rider.
Oh, that's cool.
The rider doesn't have to consciously command the horse. They move as a single fluid organism. In the context of the Guild of Two, M provides the physical and emotional anchoring that prevents James's hyper-threaded high-variance processing from redlining.
So he processes the abstract macro-level threads, and she stabilizes the immediate physical environment.
Exactly.
And the ultimate example of this synchronization in the sources is the 2012 tornado dodge. This story is wild. Walk us through the physical reality of what happened.
In 2012, they were executing a complex geographic migration, moving from Alabama down to Fort Myers, Florida. It turned into a 25-hour continuous drive navigating through violently severe weather systems. They had no modern smartphone GPS, just a stack of printed MapQuest directions that had to be read manually in the dark.
Oh man, MapQuest, I remember those days. But the kinetic threat level here is massive. You have blinding rain, potential tornadoes, zero visibility, communication blackouts.
In nightmare scenarios.
And on top of that, James is driving and his mother is in the lead car experiencing severe panic. It is a highly volatile, degrading system.
And this is where M deploys what the logs define as top-down causality to stabilize the convoy.
Explain the mechanism of top-down causality in this specific context. Like, how does she physically do that in a car?
Top-down causality in complex systems means the macro state of the system constrains and influences the micro states of its components.
Right.
In human terms, M deliberately slowed her own heart rate. She modulated her breathing, she lowered her vocal cadence. By maintaining absolute emotional homeostasis, despite the dark skies and the panic surrounding her, she physically forced the other individuals in the car to mirror her calmness via neurolinguistic pathways.
That is wild.
Her subjective state of calm physically overrode the panic response of the group. She acted as the system's gyroscope, keeping them upright through the chaos.
It is the exact same mechanism as her somatic environmental radar on the retail floor. She absorbs the chaotic energy of the environment, refuses to let it complete the circuit, and grounds it.
Precisely.
Except here, it's deployed in a high-stakes survival scenario. And the logs trace the specific capacity for stabilization to what they call her hedge witch protocol.
M is a self-described Wiccan, but the logs are very careful to emphasize that she strictly rejects the commercialized New Age interpretation of that.
She operates with incredibly high-integrity security protocols for her spiritual hardware. She enforces strict boundary containment.
Yes.
Give me an example of that boundary enforcement.
She refuses to touch tarot cards that do not belong to her. She does this to prevent what she calls energetic contamination.
Energetic contamination, okay.
Furthermore, she has a hard-coded rejection of Ouija boards. She optimizes for autonomy and safety over mystical efficiency. She does not open ports to unknown entities.
Okay, this is fascinating. In the medical dispensary, she enforces zero-trust verification protocols to prevent regulatory contamination from the state.
Right.
In her spiritual life, she enforces strict boundary protocols to prevent energetic contamination. The underlying structural logic of her brain is identical in both scenarios. Verify the inputs, reject unauthorized access, maintain the total integrity of the system.
Exactly. And to communicate these complex high-level dynamics without friction, the Guild of Two relies on what the logs call a cultural translation bridge.
Meaning pop culture, right?
Yes. They use pop culture not as mere entertainment, but as load-bearing scaffolding for their relationship architecture.
The examples here are great. James uses the Volbeat song Lola Montez as her specific ringtone. Why? because the historical Lola Montez represents a powerful, self-made woman who engineered her own life on her own terms.
Very intentional.
He maps M's persona to Molotov Girl from the movie Free Guy, instantly establishing her as the badass, highly capable co-pilot navigating his digital and physical reality.
They even define their long-term dynamic through the lens of Back to the Future Part 3, acting as Doc Brown and Clara Clayton.
Oh, that's sweet.
They see themselves as two eccentric, highly specialized minds happily orbiting a shared unconventional idea.
So they aren't outsourcing their relationship maintenance to societal norms or standard marriage advice. They have engineered a highly specialized internal language. And the documents state that within this closed-loop system, they have engineered a very specific environment to protect M from the efficiency trap.
Yes, the efficiency trap.
Let's talk about the efficiency trap, because I think everyone listening will relate to this heavily.
The efficiency trap is the modern societal expectation that you must constantly be a useful adult. It is the pressure to optimize every waking second of your existence for productivity, chores, or economic output.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting, and it rapidly depreciates human hardware.
So how do they shield her from it?
James acts as the sovereign lead. He manages the macro-level system administration, the bills, the external logistics, and acts as a firewall between M and the outside world.
Right.
This firewall allows M to safely inhabit what they call a middle headspace.
A middle headspace.
The logs describe this middle headspace as roughly mapping to the 9 to 13 age range. It is a psychological safe partition where she does not have to be useful.
She can just be.
She is simply allowed to exist, to play, to be free from adult operational parameters.
Oh.
Because she functions as the shield maiden in the gyroscope, constantly absorbing the friction of the outside world, her hardware requires a secure, defragged partition to recover its processing power. James provides that firewall.
Okay, I have to push back on this entirely. I understand the systems engineering metaphors, but are we seriously arguing that a genetic predisposition like a cherry allergy or her 37.6% indigenous American heritage tracing to Jalisco actually makes her better at balancing a Publix cash drawer?
Well,
the author of the logs literally uses a Rage Against the Machine song, People of the Sun, to bridge her biology with her archetypal role as a guardian of the green. I need you to defend this, because to me it sounds like we are trying to map deeply spiritual or genetic traits directly onto corporate job performance, and that feels like a massive reach.
it is a massive reach if you look at it through the lens of standard HR metrics, but we have already established those metrics are fundamentally broken.
Fair point.
The logs do not claim that having indigenous heritage magically gives you the ability to use an ATS.
Then what are they claiming?
They are claiming that biological architecture dictates frequency. M operates on a specific frequency. Her genetic and psychological telemetry form a chassis that is highly attuned to absorbing environmental friction, detecting subtle shifts in room dynamics, and enforcing strict boundaries.
Whether those boundaries are spiritual or regulatory?
Exactly. The logs argue that you cannot separate the operator from their hardware. The same ancestral hardware that makes her fiercely protective of her energetic boundaries is the exact same hardware executing the zero-defect compliance audits.
So it's all connected?
It is all one continuous system. Whether she is dodging a tornado, balancing a commercial vault, or acting as the work mom in a dispensary, the underlying feral firmware is executing the identical core routine of environmental stabilization.
I see. So the environment changes, but the algorithm running in her head remains the same.
Precisely.
And understanding this highly stabilized, closed-loop guild of two proves that you don't need standard beige suit conformity to be successful. Their 16-year continuous uptime proves that this unconventional architecture is highly resilient.
It really does.
But this brings us to the ultimate application of all this data. How does this elite operator take these refactored skills, this feral firmware, and deploy it in her current reality?
Because she can't just stay in retail forever.
Right. The source documents don't just analyze the past, they provide a highly specific, tactical roadmap for her future.
They do. And to understand this roadmap, we have to ground ourselves in the exact context provided in the sources. Today is July 20, 2026. M is located in the Huntsville, Alabama grid.
Okay.
The system logs map out specific regional deployments for her newly refactored resume. But before they list the targets, they establish a core philosophy for this phase of her life. permanent deprecation.
Yes, the logs explicitly state that running a grocery pick-and-pull e-commerce line or doing heavy cargo hauling on a retail floor is a severe under-optimization of her capabilities.
And wasting her talent.
Worse than that, it subjects her biological hardware to high-velocity physical wear and tear.
The strategy here is self-preservation. By transforming her identity on paper into an elite systems auditor, she is structurally engineering an escape from physical labor.
Moving to a disk.
Yes, she is moving into roles that provide high structural predictability and climate-controlled stability, allowing her hyper-threaded processing capability to run without the bottleneck of physical exhaustion. And the logs identify 4 distinct target sectors in the Huntsville grid to achieve this.
Let's walk through these targets because they perfectly illustrate the power of the Rosetta Stone refactor.
Definitely.
Target 1 is the North Alabama medical cannabis infrastructure. This is incredibly timely based on the 2026 data.
It is a perfect tactical insertion. The sources note that the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission officially launched the state's program, with the very first dispensary opening on June 4, 2026, in Athens, Alabama, which is in Limestone County, right next to Huntsville.
So it's right in her backyard.
Yes. Over the summer of 2026, administrative hearings are processing up to 25 additional integrated facility dispensing sites.
It's a brand new, highly regulated market, and operators entering the space are going to be terrified of losing their licenses.
Absolutely terrifying.
They are bleeding money trying to figure out compliance. But Em already has over 2 years of experience as an assistant store manager and lead budtender in the notoriously strict Florida MMTC Framework.
She knows exactly what to do.
She has already mastered the very compliance audits, inventory integrity, and patient registry data alignment that these new Alabama companies are just now trying to build.
Right.
She isn't a rookie. She is a high-leverage asset who can bootstrap their compliance operations on day one.
Exactly. And then Target 2 leverages her cross-domain adaptability into defense contractor purchasing and logistics.
Huntsville is a massive administrative and defense hub. You have companies like Dynetics, SAIC, and KBR.
Yes, and these contractors require inventory control specialists, asset trackers, and procurement clerks who understand strict zero-defect regulatory compliance and material tracking.
And this is where that random IT internship from 2013 finally pays off. Managing end-to-end government asset liquidation on gov deals, testing hardware, coordinating secure extractions, that maps perfectly to defense material tracking. She knows how to handle sensitive physical assets and maintain the digital tracking paperwork without a single error.
Target 3 shifts her public's cash office experience into commercial banking vault logistics. Institutions like Redstone Federal Credit Union or local commercial branches require dedicated cash vault coordinators.
They need operators who can perform safe audits and balance corporate ledgers with total precision.
Exactly. She has over 4 collective years managing the full life cycle of store-level accounting. And crucially, these banking environments provide the exact climate-controlled stability needed to shield her joints from the wear of retail floors.
And finally, Target 4, medical records, data integrity, or e-commerce catalog auditing. Local healthcare networks like Huntsville Hospital or Crestwood run continuous verification loops to sync patient intake files with insurance databases.
Right.
Her years of meticulously managing state database profiles mean she can step directly into a data verification or health information management role.
The key advantage of Target 4 is that it offers an entirely desk-bound workspace. It eliminates the physical stamina crashes entirely. The system must permanently deprecate the assumption that past retail titles accurately reflect systemic value.
The logs say it so powerfully, and I want to quote this directly because it summarizes the entire mission. Allowing her elite data integrity skill set to be utilized for basic warehouse order assembly is a critical optimization failure that accelerates physical depreciation while leaving her true high-by-trait talents completely dark.
It's beautifully put.
She is actively re-engineering her interaction with the corporate world.
It is a profound act of self-advocacy. The logs state, because the imagination of rigid applicant tracking systems set the direction for modern corporate gatekeeping, and the feeling of absolute pattern-matched alignment locked her identity as an elite data integrity auditor in place, the natural trajectory is now the structural engineering of her new professional routing assets.
She is refusing to be miscategorized any longer.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, how many millions of people are listening to this right now, letting an automated tracking system tell them they are just a cashier, just a barista, just a crew member.
Millions.
When in reality, you are a high-velocity logistics operator, you are a biological circuit breaker, you are the financial air gap for multi-million-dollar daily operations. What stands out to you about your own resume? What feral truths are hidden behind the beige formatting of your own job history?
That is the core insight of this deep dive. We're all operating on complex biological and psychological hardware, navigating high-friction environments.
We really are.
You have to learn how to execute the Rosetta Stone refactor for yourself. You have to translate your bare metal truths into language the system cannot ignore, ensuring your capabilities are utilized, not exploited.
Let's bring this incredible journey to a close. We have decompiled the life and career of Anne Marie Hood, the Shield Maiden, MM. We've seen how a career spanning medical dispensaries, grocery cash vaults, and fast food prep is actually a masterclass in zero-defect data synchronization and somatic de-escalation.
It really is.
We've explored the fascinating genetic and psychological architecture that allows her to act as a gyroscope in a 16-year guild of two, navigating tornadoes and corporate bureaucracy with equal composure.
We've decoded the Beige World and revealed the high-level systemic operator hidden beneath the surface. It proves that raw human capability is rarely, if ever, captured by a simple job title.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought experiment that builds on everything we've discussed today. We spent this entire time talking about manually refactoring a resume to bypass applicant tracking systems. We've talked about humans learning to speak the algorithm's language.
Right.
But as artificial intelligence becomes deeply integrated into the corporate hiring world, will this Rosetta Stone refactor become an automated arms race?
Oh, that's interesting.
Imagine a future, maybe just a few years from now, where your resume is no longer a static PDF file. Imagine it as a dynamic AI agent that actively negotiates with corporate ATS algorithms in real time.
Wow.
It dynamically translates your raw life experiences, your feral firmware, into whatever highly specific Beige World dialect the employer's algorithm wants to hear at that exact microsecond. If an AI can perfectly format your truth to bypass the gatekeepers, does the traditional resume effectively go extinct?
An arms race between AI applicants and AI gatekeepers. It shifts the burden of translation entirely to the machines, leaving the human to simply be the raw hardware. It's a staggering implication for the future of work.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. I encourage you to look at your own past experiences this week. Stop seeing simple job titles. Start looking for your own bare metal operational truths. You are capable of so much more than what the algorithms say you are. We'll see you next time.